Hi, and welcome to another episode of Gold Standard Service Training. I'm Alana Valino Solis, the Gold Standard Service Trainer, and I'm also the co-founder and CEO of the company. Today we're going to be talking about another relationship that is quite tenuous in the drive-through, the nature of the relationships between service advisors. So as much as managers want to have team cohesion and teamwork going on in the drive-through, it's very difficult because we're naturally competitive with each other. We're naturally competing for the good work orders, and we're competing for the customer base, and we're competing for the labor dollars. So it's important to see how, as managers, we can actually promote better relationships between the service advisors and keeping the tensions to a minimum when it's possible to do so. I've worked in a couple different environments, so there's a couple different ways service advisors distribute work orders and get paid. So both of those things, in my experience, are the biggest issues that create tension between service advisors. So first, let's talk about how work orders are distributed in the drive-through. So if you're a service advisor, you're going to know what I'm talking about. If you're not, then please drop me a line. I will explain kind of more as a sidebar to you what I'm actually talking about. And if you like our content, of course, as always, please like and subscribe so that you don't miss any of the posts that we put out there. And remember that you'd need to click the little bell if you want to get notifications. Okay. So firstly, we're going to talk about the distribution of work orders. So there's a couple basic ways work orders are distributed. The first system is called the up system, and it gets its name from sales floor linguistics, basically. So when a customer walks in and they want to buy a vehicle, the next person up gets the customer that comes through the door if they're not somebody's customer already. So they call it an up. If you are in the drive-through, that up system is a little more complicated. When the first roll of cars comes through the drive-through, there's usually 15 cars or so at a time, and if you have a staff of 5 advisors, there's no way to keep a rotation going so that fairly everything is distributed. So in the morning when you're writing up work orders, you kind of just get them all handled and get them on their way. But after the initial rush is over, we take turns taking the next customers that come through the drive-through. So it's basically luck of the draw. Whatever comes in on your turn is what you write up. So what this means to a couple different aspects of the whole logistics of the distribution of work is, if you're using that kind of service or kind of distribution system, whenever things come in the drive-through, if that's for example, if an old vehicle comes in and it's got a huge repair being done on it, and you did not call that work or let that customer know about that work, or in fact even sell that work, you could be the person benefiting from somebody else's hard work, which is how that system works. So it's supposed to work out in the end, which maybe it does, maybe it doesn't, but there's a couple problems with how that system works. So first, let's just talk about the pros of that system. So the pros of that system are that it tries to establish an even playing field for everybody, so they each have the same number of work orders each day, more or less. The other thing it tries to do is try to keep the tensions to a minimum, because people are not arguing about whose customers are whose, and that can be definitely a huge problem in some drive-throughs, because remember, most advisors are significantly paid on a commission basis, so it's very important the type of work that they're writing up and the type of cars that roll in, what they're taking care of. So those are the pros. The cons, in my experience from working in that system, are some people will see what's coming in on their turn and say it's a brand new vehicle or an off-brand vehicle that just got purchased in the used car department, and obviously there's some sort of problem, which is why they're back. So they basically play the escape artist game, and they go flying out of the drive-through saying that they have to check something, or it's time for their cigarette break or whatever thing. And the other people that are left in the drive-through are left taking their turn, basically. So when they come back in the drive-through, they usually will expect to make up their turn or have another turn right away when they've chosen to actually leave the drive-through. So that creates a lot of animosity between the advisors if that system is not managed properly. So that's one disadvantage. Second disadvantage that I found was that when there is a comeback or something that has gone wrong after a repair is done, those are also randomly written by whoever writes them up. So say for example there's a a really big job that's done and the customer came in, they paid for it and left, and now they've come back with a problem. Another advisor could be thrown into the middle of that whole situation and been left to deal with the issue, and in fact not get paid for that, after somebody who's done all the work and got paid significantly well for the original job kind of got away scot-free. So I don't like that. I don't think it's very fair. So those are the two kind of big disadvantages I see. The other thing I noticed when we were running that system is that some advisors are left feeling it very underworked. So I can handle, for example, many more work orders than say my neighbor. But after 20 work orders each, my neighbor's overwhelmed and they say, hey, can you write up my turn because I just can't handle any more work orders. And I'm fine doing that, but then the old car will come in and they're suddenly free to take care of that one. So I don't like that aspect of the situation when you're using the up system either. So what my own observations were of that was when somebody had sold a job and the customer decided to rebook it, they were trying really hard to make sure they asked for them because they didn't want to lose the sale that they worked hard doing in that first initial visit, which is totally understandable because I personally, if I work to sell that job, then I personally would want to be paid for it. I just think that's logical. The other thing that I found happening was you would put the customer under a huge amount of pressure to do the work that day, even if the shop was too busy, even if it was, the whole system would have been just crashed because you threw another 8 hours of work in there. But if you don't do it that day, the odds of it coming back to you are, 1 out of 5 if you have 5 advisors. So it's important to that advisor in that moment to get the work done that day. So it pushes a lot of work in the shop that can't fit. So that's another disadvantage. And also, obviously, the customer feels pressure, which is not something we ever want to have happen. So that's the up system. The second system that's probably the most common is the free-for-all system. So the free-for-all system is basically the opposite of that. So, one thing I forgot to talk about the up system is when the up system is in effect, whoever answers the phone and books an appointment may or may not get that appointment when they roll in. So the advisors have absolutely zero motivation to answer the phone and make an appointment. And if they do, they certainly don't make a great appointment. So maybe they see, it's due for transmission fluid, brake fluid, whatever other fluids are due, and they don't say anything because they don't want to put the effort into making that appointment just in case they don't end up taking care of it. So that's another huge disservice to the customer, because when they come in, they should understand what they're due for at that mileage and that time, and what those things are and how much they're going to be. Not when they roll in, the person writing them up says, oh, by the way, you're due for all these things, and it wasn't explained on the phone when they first booked. So I don't think that's fair to the customer either. And everything I do or want to do is always with the customer first in mind. So if it affects customer service in a negative way, I don't like it at all. Not so much the relationships with the advisors, etc., but definitely if it affects the customer, I'm not on board with it if it's in a bad way. The free-for-all system, which is the next system that's the most common, advisors will keep the appointments that they book, which is great. So they'll be more inclined to answer the phone, and they will also book a great appointment, tell the customer what they're due for, review previous recommendations, all that stuff. And so instead of just having a couple people in the BDC answering the phone, you now have all the advisors also wanting to answer the phone as well. So the pros of the free-for-all system are, number one, primarily, is that the phone gets answered instead of letting it ring off the hook. That's probably the biggest thing. The second thing that's really great about the free-for-all system is that if an advisor can handle more work orders, they naturally will be writing more work orders because they're more organized to take care of more as they're coming in and out of the drive-through. So people that get overwhelmed after 20 work orders, they're going to slow down and let the other people pick up the slack and do more. Basically, when you're using the free-for-all system, the people that can do definitely end up doing, okay? So the cons of that system as well, the scatter effect or the escape artist thing is always in effect. Anybody that sees something coming in that they don't want to handle, they just out of the drive-through in that moment, which is kind of ironic because the people that are coming in with brand new vehicles that just bought a vehicle, or if they just bought a used car from your dealership and they've got an issue with it. Those are the people that you need to rush out and run toward to take care of so that they get a great first experience with your dealership. You don't want to be rushing out of the drive-through and avoiding those people, because those are the people that usually need your help the most. The second thing that is a negative with that system is sometimes people can become frustrated when they see the gap in sales start to grow. So the people that are strong and flourish in that environment and end up answering the phone and making a lot of appointments, their labor dollars like naturally are just going to increase, and you start to see this pull away from the people that are not as organized and able to handle as many work orders, and that makes people feel bad about their job, about the way they're doing it, and that's something that you have to kind of mitigate as a manager. But the point of this relationship episode is, how can we mitigate the issues between advisors in the drive-through? So if we're implementing these systems, we are going to naturally create our own problems, which is what I'm trying to keep from happening. So the best systems that I've worked in are kind of a hybrid between the two, okay? So maybe you have some systems out of the rotations up system, and then maybe you have some things that come from the free-for-all system. A really good one that I know that's being done in one dealership is that the appointments are being booked by the advisors, but they don't keep those appointments unless they actually sold something on it. So if they went in and they made an appointment and found in the history that it never had a brake fluid exchange at some point and they sold that on the appointment, they would get to keep that when it came in. The other thing that happens is, when you book a lot of appointments, you tend to have a lot of people writing work orders for you, because obviously you can only handle 1 or 2 people at a time. And if you have 6 of your own appointments roll in at once, then other people have got to pick up the slack and write up those appointments for you. So that can also be frustrating for them, because every time they do that, they miss an opportunity. Pay structures are also a big, huge problem between advisors that can create animosity as well. As managers, when we put pay plans in place, we have to realize what we're creating when we do that. So there's different ways you can structure your pay plan. I have structured many different ones that have been very successful. Some managers don't like dealing with the internal conflict, because when one advisor sells a lot and the other advisors don't, there's always some sort of conflict between the advisors with how many work orders that person gets, or how they're writing up cars, or whatever the discussions are. There's always some sort of negative overtures going on. But some managers don't deal well with that conflict, and so just to avoid it completely, they'll just put everybody on a pay plan that is team orientated, period. So meaning that if there's $100,000 of labor sold in 1 month, the 5 people will get a percentage. It will be equal. Everybody will be paid the same. However, if you get someone like myself in there and I'm selling 45 to 50% of the labor that comes out of that shop, how excited do you think I'm going to be when everybody gets paid the same? Probably not so excited. So if you want to attract people that are drivers and do a really good job and can really move labor dollars through the shop, you cannot have a sole team pay structure. It just doesn't attract the right people. Conversely, if everything is individual, then you have absolutely zero effort to be team orientated or to help someone or sell something on somebody's work order for them, clearly, even if you see that it's needed. So hybrid versions of both things are really the best way to go. And if you're interested in learning about how to create or look at some of the hybrid plans that I've worked with and created, please drop me a line. Advise me at goldstandardservicetraining.com, or you can drop me a link down below in the comments and I will respond. So again, if you like the content, please like and subscribe and hit the bell. Otherwise, let me know how it's going. Have a good day.